Auzu billahi minashaitanirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Salam Alikum and welcome to tonight's live show on Imam Hussein TV. The topic tonight is the New Zealand attacks. You will find that last Friday, the date was the 15th of March, 50 people were mercilessly killed. And I'd like to give condolences to the victims' families in Christchurch, New Zealand. We have a global audience and we also have viewers from, Alhamdulillah, New Zealand. Christchurch is a big city. It's a small city with a big outlook. And tonight, I'd like to also talk about what's happened there. A person by the name of Brenton Tarrant, a 28-year-old Australian citizen, ruthlessly murdered 50 people, as I mentioned, in 2 mosques. The last murder was a poor Muslim lady lying on the pavement, calling out for help. Please help me, please, help me. And he cowardly shot her in the head. I'd like to take time out for the viewers all over the world and please recite Surah Fatiha for the victims and condolences once again to their families. Auzu billahi minashaitanirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alayhim ghayril maghdubi 'alayhim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. As I mentioned in my introduction, the topic tonight is the New Zealand attacks. You'll find today the life that we live. From my own experience, I've been to the mosques, many mosques of different madhabs, different schools of thought. Is it a worrying time? Should I be worried taking my little daughter, my mother? What about the mothers and the sisters who actually go and attend mosques to pray, to meditate, to learn? What is happening? Why is there so much extremism? Is it rife in our societies? What sort of hate preach messages are being portrayed and reflected from different communities and different members? With me tonight, I'd like to once again have Dr Sayed Ammar Nakshawani. Salam Alikum, Dr Sayed.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
It's been a tragic few days, sending shockwaves all over the world. I think it has shocked even the most hard-hearted people that this gruesome, cowardly act has taken effect, all for the sake of small matters in their name, for example, immigration, race hate, religion, color, and more. So with that in mind, Sayyidina, I'd like to ask, you've actually lectured all over the world, alhamdulillah, and I'm sure you've had the privilege of seeing the cultural outlook, as it were, from different communities, different cities, all throughout different continents, as it were. So I'd like to ask, have you ever traveled to New Zealand?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You introduced this show in a profound way, I must say this. And your emotions, I think, are felt by many. And our condolences go out to our beloved people in New Zealand, Muslim and non-Muslim alike.
Absolutely.
For Imam Ali alayhi salam, in those wonderful words that can be used by Muslim and non-Muslim alike, in his famous letter to Malik al-Ashtar, which is a profound letter of governance, in Nahj al-Balagha, where he says, Malik, the people, in that context, of course, of Egypt, but generally, are of two types. They are either your brothers in faith or your equals in humanity. And that country has wonderful people. I first had the honor of lecturing in New Zealand 15 years ago.
Alhamdulillah.
You know, at the time I was 22 years of age, and it was a huge honor. And Muslims and non-Muslims alike attended my lectures. The lovely buzz, lovely spirit. You know, I think we grew up having a relationship with New Zealand through a couple of ways. One was rugby, where you would see Jonah Lomu absolutely, you know, destroying anybody who came in his way. And then the other was cricket.
Cricket.
And I'm sure, you know, you're from a sporting family.
Yeah.
You can remember a few great... Richard Hadley.
Yeah.
You know, he could bowl. You know, that would get to any batsman. An unbelievable number of wickets.
Yeah.
And then they had other great sportsmen as well. So when I went there, I was really honored to be in New Zealand. And I was also very honored to see the open-mindedness of the people we know as the Kiwis. There was an unbelievable open-mindedness, a love of dialogue, a real interest to learn about the religion. And I'm devastated, I really am, because I know that the communities that had a demographic of people who were killed on that day, the Bangladeshi cricket team, if I'm not mistaken, was not too far away from the incident, and there was a number of the Somalian brethren. And I would say the Bangladeshis and the Somalians are also amongst, you know, are also amongst those who have lived peacefully in New Zealand society. I can't ever remember an incident being reported about a Somalian or a Bangladeshi in Auckland who was anything but a person who was part and parcel of the fabric of that society.
Yeah.
So when you see these people killed, and let me make something clear,
Bismillah.
whether it's the synagogue and the 11 members of the Jewish community, if I'm not mistaken, that were killed, or Charleston, or looking at the killings of innocent black folk simply because of their color, whether it's anti-Semitism, if it's not anti-Semitism, then racism, bigotry, prejudice, all of these are diseases in our society. Martin Luther King said something beautiful. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And what's happened in New Zealand, it's amazing when you see how many mourners were non-Muslims.
Yes.
You know, normally it's the other way around. Normally, a Muslim is supposedly have done something and everybody's like, Islam, Islam, Islam. On this occasion, it's one of the first times the tables have turned where people were like, you know what, this is bullying now. And it's despicable. And I credit the team behind the scenes for coming together today. Really. Because them coming together and making this program, and also a shout out to all of our different communities who have written to us, who have held vigils,
Yes.
and have been supported by Muslims and non-Muslims, and received condolences by Muslims and non-Muslims.
Yes. Yes.
You know, you look, for example, Vancouver, Canada, Orlando, Florida.
Yes.
In the UK, we had some fantastic stands of people coming together. And you know, sometimes the Quran does say that after particular difficulty comes ease.
Yes, right.
I hope that ease will come to the world, because growing up in this generation, war has been taken too lightly. Killing of innocents has been taken too lightly. I'm just so sad to say it, but we've just become immune.
Desensitized.
Yeah. Immune to hearing about deaths.
Yeah.
When we see kids being killed, we're ready to be sad for a few moments and just move on. I don't know how we're going to regain our humanity. Maybe after a hardship of an incident like this, there's a greater plan to bring back some of our humanity.
Yeah.
And I must say something else, and that is, I'm saddened by the Premier League, that when a football player of some repute dies, they hold a minute's silence.
Armbands and so forth.
At Craven Cottage yesterday, Fulham Football Club had an employee who died. She was a Liverpool fan, but she was an employee of Fulham Football Club. And there was a silence that was held by the players and the supporters. Are Muslims not human?
Yeah.
You know, are Muslims not to be seen as human beings? Look, I admire someone like, you know, the great England goalkeeper, Banks, who passed away recently.
Yeah.
But like, those families don't deserve a 1 minute silence. Sadio Mane is not from a Muslim background. Mohamed Salah is not Muslim.
Sure.
You know, other players in that match were not of a Muslim background.
Absolutely. I mean, even just recently we had that comic relief event, and they could have mentioned something and so on and so forth. So
I don't know if there's moments where it's just like, there's many with such feelings, but they can't let them out.
Yeah.
And when I saw that the Premier League didn't even do a minute's silence, I hope I'm mistaken, but Craven Cottage yesterday, nobody mentioned, let's do a 1 minute silence in honor of those fans that had died. And for a country that prides itself on never forgetting what's happened to other religions and not allowing oppression that happened in World War II to ever be forgotten, I do begin to wonder whether it's a rule for one group and a rule for
someone else. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. There's 2 points I'd like to pose, and I'd like to give you the opportunity, as it were, to answer whichever you wish, as it were, in order of importance. And I've briefly touched on this callous, extreme terrorist act, and it is a terrorist act.
No doubt.
A lot of media channels and even newspapers actually failed to address it as a terrorist act in the first place, and said that it was just a killing and so on and so forth. And I was very happy to actually see one key spokesman from New Zealand who actually said this is a terrorist act and we should condone it. On that line, there's 2 points that I'd like to address, and I'd like you to obviously choose whichever one you want to prioritize. So, sadly, this seems to be a manifesto of hate and extremism. You know, the truth is that this is some of the comments that we've been reading. The truth is that Islam is not like any other faith. It is the religion equivalent of fascism. That's the first point. The real cause of bloodshed is the immigration program, which allowed Muslim fanatics to migrate in the first place. So that's one side. And then the other side is about just those victims who actually died in Salah. So I'd like to put it to you, whichever way you'd like to take that on first. So
yeah, it's scary when you hear that there are manifestos that continue to call Islam disease, Islam as a generic term.
Shocking.
Just like putting everybody together. Look, guys, for example, here I am, I'm a Muslim. And I don't know if I look like a stereotypical Muslim, like, you know, I don't know what you define as a Muslim. You can have Muslim who defines themselves by their beard, another defines themselves by their rosary bead, another by their veil, another with no veil, no beard. There are those who have an affiliation to Islam as a culture. There
Yes.
are those who have an affiliation to Islam as a religion.
True.
There are those who are passionate in going to the mosque. There are those who only get married in the mosque.
Yes, yes, yes.
There are those who will never come near alcohol. There are those who can't wait to get on a flight and destroy the alcohol and drink it the whole flight. There are those of us who support football clubs and never miss a game that they play. And there are those of us who believe that everything Western is evil. And
Yes.
there are those who believe that you can adapt. And what's sad is when someone just says Islam. Islam is not some generic term. Muslim is not one. There are those who have a Western worldview. There are those who have a Middle Eastern worldview. There are those in the West whose worldview is shaped by the Middle East.
Yes, yes.
And there are those in the Middle East who can't wait to go to the West because they feel they're in the clutches of culture stroke ignorance rather than tradition and reform.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it saddens me that we're all labeled, you know, Islam. And even within Islam, there are sects which are spiritual. There are sects which attack spirituality.
Yes, yes.
There are sects which are political. There are sects which are apolitical or apolitical.
Quite right.
Even within Islam, your life may have been saved by a Muslim heart surgeon. Is he the same fascist? Or your life may have been saved by somebody in an ambulance who wears a veil. She's a fascist.
Yes, quite right.
And I must admit that this disease of generalization is not one that just affects the non-Muslim, even Muslims.
Yes, yes.
If a Muslim sees someone Jewish who's wearing
The kippah, as
The
it were. The Jewish.
you'll find that there are some people who straight away equate that this Jewish person is not somebody I can ever say hello to.
Yeah,
There are some Muslims, if they see someone wearing a Sikh, they generalize about all Sikhs.
true.
They don't know the one who's reached the level of being a Sikh, one who's still a Singh, the different in the nights, and the understanding of chivalry in Sikhism. There are some Muslims who believe that Hindus worship cows, and they continue to profess this. There are some Muslims who've never met a Hindu.
Yeah.
In the Middle East, there are Muslims who've never met a Hindu.
Yes, yes.
There are some Muslims who don't know the difference between Sikhism and Hinduism. This generalization is what leads to bigotry and prejudice. Because what I then do is I begin to label everybody the same.
Same. And yet think that they're broad-minded themselves.
And yet sometimes not even know that you could be picking up someone in a cab or talking to somebody on the train, and you will know that this is a very devout Muslim. I don't think there's many people out there who, if they for example met me in the mall, for example, they'll never think that this person, for example, is a devout Muslim or somebody who's got a little bit of Islamic knowledge.
Yeah.
So the sad thing about a lot of these statements is that you're labeling a whole group of people. Even when it came to the black community, I felt so sorry for the black community because for years, anybody who was seen black was profiled because of their color.
Yes, that's right.
Or straight away, whenever there was a crime, it must have been that black person in the neighborhood. For all you know, that person was a Luther King or a Baldwin or a Mandela.
True.
Intelligentsia, people of class.
Absolutely.
So when you have manifestos like this, and they're everywhere now, sadly comes from an ignorance.
Yes, 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 sir. Thank you for that. Now turning to the gruesome acts, as it were, of those that were killed. 50 people. And I'd like to emphasize this again and again. 50 people were mercilessly killed.
Yeah.
The victims, you know, they died in salah.
In their prayer, yeah.
In their prayer. What words can one offer, as it were? Are there any precedents that those families have to learn from them, or some sort of consolation for them? What can we offer those victims, especially now, looking at the audience in Christchurch, different time zone?
There are great personalities in the history of religion, and especially in the history of the religion of Islam, who were harassed in their prayer or who were killed in their prayer. In chapter 96, verse 9 to 10 of the Quran, there's these very important verses which have to be mentioned today, and they are fundamental because they relate to the way they were harassed and then later killed. أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يَنْهَى عَبْدًا إِذَا صَلَّى. Surah 96, verse 9 to 10. Have you seen the one who disrespects and causes evil acts against the one in his prayer, our servant in his prayer? Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family used to have feces thrown on his head when he was in prostration. He used to have people mock him when he was in prostration.
Yes.
And he remained as patient as he could. Imam Ali alayhi salam was killed in his prayer by Abd al-Shaytan, the son of Muljam. And if anything, if those families can hold on to, it's that a man like Ali died in prostration, died having been killed by an ignorant, bigoted, arrogant individual.
Yeah.
It's a shame that history repeats itself.
Yes.
This personality, this person who killed these members of the Muslim community, arrogant, bigoted, prejudiced, and let them hold on to a prophet who was harassed in prayers, and let them hold on to a leader who was killed in prayer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now Islamophobia, unfortunately, throughout the West now has become rife. There are people who find it difficult to travel, specifically here and in America and places like that. Hate campaigns towards Muslims, literally hate campaigns. Some parties have also on their manifesto that, you know, they've taken over Islamophobia, even Muslims being banned from traveling. Is this something that we've seen just recently?
I think when an immigration form says to you,
declare your...
Not even that, even when it says to you, alien, you know, hold on buddy, I'm a human being, but there are some immigration forms that, you know, actually say visitor stroke aliens. There's a certain amount of arrogance that definitely exists. And it's clear that in Europe at the moment, and in other parts of the world, that there is a hate of Islam, and it's been taken out on every Muslim. And that there are policies that continue to be instituted. And that governments, sadly, in some cases, and even the electorate, you know, sometimes injustice occurs because of the silence of the good, not the acts of the bad. There are a lot of good people out there who are silent about seeing people who are being oppressed in this way. And I know there are countries in the world now where the moment you have any facial hair, they say that this is a random screening, but why is it that the 6 guys in random screening all have a beard?
Yes.
You do know it's cool to have a beard right now. The catwalk in Milan and in Paris and in New York now has a lot of bearded guys.
Fellas. Yeah.
And so this Islamophobia definitely can be seen. There are a number of Islamophobic attacks that have occurred. The Finsbury Park incident was not long ago. And all we ask is, don't demonize a whole group of people. There are a lot of our sisters out there who have worked in soup kitchens. There's a lot of our brothers out there who have sat with the homeless in cold nights. And it's unfair that a people demonize such individuals without realizing that they want to try and have the same life that you have.
Yeah, of course. That's right.
So that Islamophobia can also be seen in certain groups now in the UK who blatantly are going around and insulting. You see, I don't have a problem if you have a problem with the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family. If you want to, for example, say something like, listen, I don't agree with the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him and his family, or I don't think that he's a prophet of God, or I don't believe in the Quran. I don't think Muslims should have a problem with somebody who rejects what we believe. But it's just when it begins to become insulting, or when you hear a girl's headscarf has been ripped off her head, or you hear that there are some of the Sikh community who now have to wear baseball caps because people think that the turban is a sign of a Muslim.
Yes, yes.
And this happened after 9/11 as well.
That's right, that's right.
You know, after 9/11, there were members of the Sikh community who were being harassed.
Yep, they got attacked, yes.
We can't go back to the precedent of the fascist extreme right wing that we saw in and around World War II and we despised. You know, people looked back at Hitler and Mussolini and looked back at other ideologies and despised what was happening, where people were racially profiled or because of religion they were profiled. And you know what is more sad? The person at immigration, in some cases, is so uneducated about your religion and yet still is having the audacity to ask you questions about a religion they know nothing of. When you have somebody in immigration who has already a racist attitude, because racism comes from where? Either inferiority complex, or a fear that your dominance may be taken over by somebody else, or pure ignorance. And you have some parts of the world who have never seen a colored person.
Yes.
Believe you me, and they don't know what a Muslim is. There are some people in this world who, when they look at somebody wearing a veil, that's something unusual for them. We're lucky we live in London.
Yes.
But we can't let London become a place where it's easy for people to met out hate.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Sayyidina. With respect to that key word you just ended that last note with, hate. The Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and his holy Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. How did this great figure react, combat, shun, tolerate, hate, or what were the means, as it were? And we should actually take lessons from this, because we should, I feel, portray to the world that, we're not bad people. As you mentioned, why put us down?
Yeah, I think there's interesting lessons to be taken from his life in relation to what we see today. Firstly, the possible idea of change makes people nervous. So when people are seeing that more and more people are reading the Quran or reading about Islam, then they start getting a bit agitated.
True.
I think secondly, when there's a certain charisma to the people talking about the religion, it brings a certain amount of agitation.
Yes.
Especially if it's spoken in the right way. He faced Islamophobia more than we'll ever face.
Yeah.
If we define Islamophobia, and we're all looking for what is the exact definition, but if we define Islamophobia as bigotry and prejudice and hate shown to a group of people, then you look in the Quran, you've got him being described in all sorts of ways. He is described as a majnoon, as a kahin, as a sahir, as a sha'ir, abtar. And even his uncle's wife would never call him Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She'd insult him by calling him Mudhammam, and then Hammalat al-Hatab, she would gather the firewood to try and hurt him. And his daughter Fatima had to see a lot. She saw what he went through. He tried his hardest to remain patient, and even God tells him, if you are hard-hearted or severe, many would have left you. And many times in the Quran, God reminds him and us that he's with the patient. And he does migrate. And I think what many people who are keep bringing up this migration, that Muslims migrate into our lands, we don't migrate because we wanted to leave our lands. There were wars which were started because certain companies needed their jets to be sold. There were wars that were started because oil had to be sold. All in the name of we're saving your lives. When we're coming to these different countries, we're not coming to these countries because we necessarily wanted to be here. It's an honor to be here. I'm proud of having walked the streets and having had an educational system in this country. But when you're telling me that these migrants, buddy, the reason we migrated was because there was funding being given to dictators who later on were bad boys, earlier were good. Can you make up your mind? Because at the beginning this guy is good, but then he's a bad man. And so the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, has to even migrate because of how much hate he was receiving. His companions had to migrate. Now what's beautiful is when his companions migrate because of Islamophobia, you have some countries which are so open-minded and welcoming, where they're like, you know what, all humans, we're all one, where all the children of Adam and Eve come and live here. And that was what the Abyssinian priest did. He showed the beauty of Christianity by saying that we have a lot in common, come live here. So when someone then turns around and starts saying that you Muslims migrate into my land, I didn't migrate into your land. I had to wake up hearing bullets and bombs because you needed a pipeline of oil. When I'm saying you, I'm not saying you as the ones making the statement. Go and do your research. And then you'll look at those wars that were fought. Vietnam, Cambodia, China, Russia and Cold Wars, Iraq, Iran War, the Gulf War, the post-2003. A lot of these were fought where kids had to wake up knowing that there's chemical weapons being used, but being funded by those very same people who are like, you migrants are coming here. But I don't want to come there. I found myself on a ship, or I found myself having to sit under a trailer just to get somewhere.
Restart my life again.
My oil seemingly was tasty. And the land was fertile, and you wanted it.
In the name of...
So he goes through periods of Islamophobia. But even those who he showed him Islamophobia, he never took revenge on them.
No.
That's amazing. Because the image of the Prophet Muhammad is always, you know what, this man spread his religion by the sword, etc., etc. But you look at Abu Sufyan, you know, disgusting personality.
Hypocrite.
Arrogant. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And when Mecca's opened, the man who used to always tell him, you migrant, you orphan, he keeps the doors open for him. You're the freed people on this day as they receive the title of being tulaqa. So the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon his family, received a lot of hate. I suppose if it wasn't for people like him, we wouldn't be able to survive at the moment.
I think so too. I think so too, yes. You get a lot of ignorant people, should I say, who touch on the point that religions should be removed from society because they result in war after war. What would you have to say about that?
Well, firstly, I don't deny religion if its verses and its codes are abused. Yes, you can end up causing bloodshed. No one can deny that. But I think there are famous people of no religion who are responsible for the loss of millions of lives.
Yes.
Sadly, there are people who use religion for their political interests. But sadly, there are people who use politics to destroy people of religion. And they had no religion. As in Mao or Mussolini or Stalin, you know, Lenin, were they orchestrators of the loss of lives of millions? Last I heard, they weren't Muslim.
Yes, yes.
There are some countries in existence today, they've only been in existence for a few hundred years. 3/4 of that time has been war. And the name of their worldview, 3/4, so let's say out of 300 years, 200, whatever, just being, you know, over 200 years of bloodshed. What's Islam got to do with that?
Yes.
I can't deny that we have rubbish periods in our history where people used religion to cause bloodshed. We do. We do. You know, we've got some evil eras in our history.
Yes.
Where Arabs used religion just to expand their own dominance, but they put the name of Islam on it.
Yeah, yeah.
But to say religion should be removed because I think there's a lot of good religious people out there who do not support offensive wars, expansionism. Just want to live as citizens in a plurality of diverse opinions.
Yes. Okay, I think we're going to be going for a break in the next couple of minutes. But just before then, I'd like to put forward a couple of questions. The literature and how that is exploited. Before we come to that, we'll try and squeeze in a question now. Do you think that, you see, let's flip the angle now. Let's look at it from a different point of view. Do you think certain Muslim preachers are to blame? And also, you know, we've seen these dreadful, absolutely dreadful clips, YouTube, news stations cast them from time to time. People chanting, saying, kill the kuffar, fight the kuffar, in the name of Allah, Allahu Akbar, so on and so forth. What's going on?
Yeah, we've had some crazy preachers. There's no doubt. There's some crazy preachers out there, and I think there are cells of crazy people even within the UK.
Yeah.
Who probably went to Syria and probably went to Afghanistan and went to other parts, fought and came back and are probably living on their benefits now. You know, there are people who have been radicalized, but which Muslim didn't speak out against those preachers?
Yeah.
You know, I don't think anyone out there was saying that Anjem Chowdhury represents Islam. There were many Muslims who were out there who were outraged by some of the things that were said. And there are others who were radical, who were in prison. I don't think many Muslims cried. But I think the problem is now that the Muslims are saying when there are certain people with fascist opinions, you've got no issue with it.
Yeah, yeah.
But when it's a Muslim saying it, then
it's different.
It's the evil of Islam. There's
Yes.
double standards there.
Yes.
But can we deny that there are people on their Friday prayers who lead the khutbahs, who do encourage people to go out there and kill kuffar, or go out there and behead the Rafidi, or behead the Christian? I think Christians have had them.
Yes.
Jews have them. Hindus have them. Muslims have them. And anything in extreme, is always not good for us.
Yes, okay, so now, thank you for that. Viewers, we will be right back in the next moment or two. We're just going for a break. Salam Alikum.
You're here defending the paedophile. I'm here defending your dad. These women are here defending the paedophile. You're here defending.
We don't need a TV channel because we've got mosques.
We have Islamic centres that are always open.
We have schools teaching Islam.
Hijab is part of a school uniform.
Islam has come and it's established here in the West.
And everyone's happy.
They love us, our food, our fashion,
our culture.
The media is always on our side.
We've got plenty of English speakers, plenty of English books,
and plenty of places to go and learn in the English language.
Let's be real.
Let's get active. Be more involved.
www.imamhusseinfree.tv.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to part 2 of our live show tonight, New Zealand killings. Sayyidina, thank you and welcome back. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Just in relation to the point that you mentioned about preachers, Muslim preachers, and the clips, as it were, that have been promoted rightly and wrongly. When I mean rightly, I mean by news stations, and wrongly as well by them and Muslims. But do you think, in relation to that, there seems to be, or is it correct for me to say, is there a correlation of literature to this preaching? I mean, does literature in our mosques need to be reviewed? And this is quite broad, as it were.
You said something interesting. You said, rightly promoted by the media. My problem is that the media has a major role in this far-right extremism. Because the media only brings on the telly those people who are going to exasperate the situation even further.
Quite true. Quite true.
For years, they were bringing people with a beard this long.
Yeah.
Yani covering my tie. Imagine here up till here.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
When you're bringing someone looking like that, it's one thing. It may be a style thing now. People have long beards. But when that person you know is going to say things about July the 7th, 9/11, praising them, why would you bring them on the BBC?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
You had no other Muslim to bring on? Or is it about selling?
Yes, of course.
Then, when this person has been radicalized, and you now come and tell me that you Muslims are the issue, you're the ones who are bringing Muslims on the telly, who, as I once said when I was interviewed, I said it very clearly, that the Muslims they bring on the television look like the cast of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
One has a hook,
Yes.
the other's blindfolded. Like, for the love of God, what is it? You've gone to a war zone and picked people to come on BBC? Don't get me wrong, we do also have Muslims who go on television simply because they want the limelight.
Yeah.
It's better that that person is just, just stay in the mosque and do talaq and nikah and istikhara for the rest of your life. Don't come on television. But when you're having these huge media outlets interviewing the most extreme element, be it TV, be it radio, when they're doing this, then you're gonna help push the radicalism. Now, literature in our mosques, there is some crazy literature exported here from the Middle East. And the big problem I find, Muslims are at a major identity crisis. Who gives them the worldview? The Middle East or where they're living?
Yes. Yes.
Ask the Muslims, who dictates your worldview? You've lived alongside Hindus, Jews, Sikhs, Buddhists, atheists. Do you take your worldview from people who've never lived alongside all of these? Who have a certain perception of what Hindu is, or what Sikh is, or what Jewish is? You see, if I take my worldview about Jewish from Lebanon, let me give you an example.
Yeah.
If I emulate a grand scholar in Lebanon, and I take my worldview about Jewish from someone in Lebanon, these borders of Lebanon and the Jewish community are borders that have seen tensions for over 50 years. Their understanding living there is different from my understanding when I'm going to, for example, Hampstead or St. John's Wood to chill with Jewish friends of mine who I grew up with.
Yeah.
Let's say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, Muslims are at crossroads. The literature some Muslims use to interpret the world is sometimes medieval literature. World of Dar al-Harb, Dar al-Kufr, Dar al-Islam, the world of Islam, the world of disbelief, and the world of war, and the world of submission, and the world of peace. And a Muslim will take those books published in Cairo, published in Mecca and Medina, published in Qom and Najaf, and will use those works to provide their worldview. But Cairo faced a major problem with the works of Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim, Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, where they said that there were extreme elements in those works.
Right.
And they had to even remove them from the bookshelves because they were used to radicalize.
Okay, yes.
We'll come back to it because you gave me a hint of a
No,
call.
the caller has dropped.
Okay, so
please
what
do
you have
continue.
therefore then is when Al-Azhar University and others decide that some of the works of Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah or Ibn Taymiyyah or Uthaymeen or Jibreen or Ibn Baz may have had a worldview from Saudi Arabia because of Afghanistan, because of Russia.
Yes.
But what are they doing in a mosque in London.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So now we have a caller on the line. Salam Alaikum.
Alaikum Assalam, brother. My name is Imam Hussein. I am calling from Ilford.
Okay,
and firstly, it's very productive. Always, as always, Sayed Ammar is an amazing leader. I mean, I will call him a leader. I learn so much from him all the time.
Yes.
And
thank you.
And my question, yeah, and you especially, like when the way you started the program, I didn't blink the eyes yet.
Well, thank you. Alhamdulillah.
I mean, my first question, I've got quite a few questions, but I'm going to summarize everything very quickly. What should be my mother, my sister, my brother, or the community role in these circumstances? Number one, what should be the leadership role? We can't see any leadership, unfortunately, in UK, like for the Muslims, and outside too. And also the question is, like, we have luxury mosques just for prayer. Can it be used for something to unite the Muslims in a very positive way? And what should be a Muslim role, basically, in the society? So these are my questions, and a lot of respect and love for Sayyid Ammar, and you as well. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, it's difficult times. Anyone who's got a sister out there, wearing the headscarf, you're always wondering about what difficulties they may face. But there's been great solidarity from the council, from the communities of other religions who have come together.
Alhamdulillah.
And that solidarity is something we want to build on. I tell you, if somebody's attacked in the Christian community or in the Sikh community, we have to be the first there.
We should.
And if somebody ever attacks a gurdwara or a synagogue or a church, then we'll be the first there. And likewise, if we all stand together, then believe you me, these faiths will be the ones who will look after our sisters.
Yes.
So I think interfaith dialogue, fundamental.
Which you've raised.
Partnership with the council to discuss with them Islamophobic elements that may exist. And I think the mosques have a major role in reassessing security.
Okay.
I think the security in some of our mosques has to be reassessed. We have to begin to question which backpack is allowed in, what's not, who can come in and what. And I'm sad to say this because it's the house of God.
But it must be done these days, yes.
But I think you have to begin to talk to the local police and tell them that we're going to need, in the same way the Jewish community for many years, they did what's known as a sweep.
Yes.
And I think likewise the Muslim community should head in that direction.
Okay, fine. So we've got a question here from Bexley Heath. He's a Christian. His name's Nick. He says, "Hello, Dr. Ammar. I have a problem."
Yeah.
In your book, the Holy Quran, he says, it says in chapter 9, which I believe is Surah Tawbah.
Correct.
Verse 5, kill the disbelievers wherever you see them. Then at the same time, says that Islam is a religion of peace.
Yeah.
What does one say to that? And it is an important question. And interrelated to that.
He's right. He's got a good point.
Yeah.
I think there isn't a religious book in the world which doesn't mention the sword at one stage or the other.
Right.
Part of the rational conclusion of any human being is that when injustice is being carried out, you must defend yourself.
Okay.
I don't think, our caller, Richard, is it?
Yeah.
I don't think we can turn around and say that the human being is not justified that when somebody attacks them, that they defend themselves. When the Quran said kill the disbelievers wherever you see them, it wasn't just random, coincidental, haphazard that you just go and kill a disbeliever. The context, and I can understand where people like Richard come from, because if every time we're going to go and refer to context, how many people have got the time to go and look for the context?
Yes.
But in a religion where there's over 1 billion people, I think it deserves that sort of attention. And at the time, the Meccans who had tried to make a peace treaty, the Muslims had made a peace treaty with the Meccans, the Muslims of Medina and the Meccans, and then they were ambushed and killed. And the whole idea was, you've got to try and find who the perpetrators are. And certainly don't kill those who've got no involvement. But those who are the perpetrators, if they admit what they've done, some countries in the world today will punish them with execution.
Right.
And they are meant to be the most developed countries on this earth.
But it's also, if I can just ask, it's also, if I may say, the weakness, as it were, of English translating that. No?
No.
Oh, okay.
You know, when the holy months have passed,
right.
فَاقْتُلُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ حَيْثُ وَجَدْتُمُوهُم وَخُذُوهُم. And, you know, it's kill the disbelievers where you see them, take them, surround them. You know, there's no problem in the translation.
Okay.
The context is that the Muslims have been ambushed after having made a peace treaty by a group of thugs.
Right.
And that when a person says Islam is a religion of peace, peace doesn't mean pacifism. It means that the aim is to try and build a society of plurality of diverse opinions, where people can coexist with one another. But however, when there are thugs walking around the streets just killing anybody, especially after they promised peace, then those people are to be put to task. Now, is that irrational or rational? There are countries in the world who, when they found that they've had spies who've committed treason, have executed them. There are countries in the world when they found rapists and pedophiles have resulted in the electric chair. There are others who found a reform program. I think if you're talking 1,400 years ago, it was not irrational. Persia, Rome, Arabia, it was not irrational.
Yes.
I think today one may argue that if there are such people, try and defend yourself, but don't, try first to find a conflict resolution manner. So I can't blame people like Richard. But that's where the Muslims have to be more involved in the academic world.
True. Yes, absolutely.
There needs to be a lot more seminars, a lot more scriptural reasoning, more than ever before.
Okay.
If you are a Muslim living in Brent, Harrow, Westminster, Lambeth, Wandsworth, wherever, go to the local religious development officer and the council.
Right.
And try and organize meetings so that we're able to answer these questions. Because 1% of the reality of when a person becomes radicalized is that they will read a verse like this and say, I hate these people.
Yeah.
Now, he probably doesn't accept that in, let's say, Matthew in the Bible, there may be verses similar about the sword will fight the sword and some groups will perish. Or that in the Torah or in other faiths. So I don't blame them, but I think there needs to be more work done from our side as well.
Well said. Thank you for that. And just extending that verse, as it were, there's also another verse in the Holy Quran which mentions about Islam will rule over the world.
Yeah.
So what does one have to say about that, as it were?
You see, you can't pick and choose verses from the Quran. Some verses contextual, absolute, decisive, ambiguous. Even when you look in the Quran, there are the concepts of which verse is muhkam, what's mutashabih, what was abrogated, what context. When saying Islam will rule over the world, it's the aim of trying to bring a system that seeks to, in law, in spirituality, in theology, answer the questions for the human being in a way that brings about a system which actualizes the full potential of the human being.
Yes.
Islam believes that in terms of law, ethics, theology, and spirituality, it has a holistic system that can be a holistic way of life for the individual. But you read Islamic literature, there's a major focus on dialogue with other faiths. Now, if the Quran is saying, say to the people of the book, come to a joint word, or the Quran is saying, oh mankind, we created you from male and female, different tribes and races so that you may get to know one another. So it can't then be the case that Islam is meant to be that religion which prevails over all in the sense that we'll put a sword to all of you and kill you. Prevails over all as being, especially in the context of the verses in those days, that the mushrik, the polytheist, were mocking the Prophet Muhammad. Your religion is not going to do anything. It's not going to change the way of our forefathers. The black will always be lower than the white, and lower than the Arab. The female will always be lower than the male. And God would mention that He sent His messenger with this religion, the religion of truth, and that will prevail over all faiths, however much these polytheists mock you.
Yes, yes.
And it did.
Yeah, true.
And many say that, this relates to a prophecy about the Mahdi. But even the Mahdi, upon his return, the Jews will be given their legal verdicts according to their law, and the Christians according to their law, and the Muslims according to their law.
Yeah. I'd like to read out a question, a WhatsApp question that's come in. Said, Salam, I would like to ask a question. Condolences to New Zealand victims. My question is being new to Shia Islam. I still see so much hatred and tension amongst our own Muslim selves. How do we tackle this in the Western liberal cities where we are supposed to be free? Before we address Islamic phobic matters, I would like to address how a Shia should tackle Shia phobia amongst the Muslim ummah. Jazakallah. Very good question.
That's a great question. I think Shia phobia is a reality. There are Muslims out there who are sad about what happened, rightly so, to those victims in New Zealand, but don't bat an eyelid when they hear that Shia have been massacred in Quetta or in Parachinar.
Yeah. Yes.
Or in Karachi, or in Iraq, or in other parts of the world that find it, Shia. Arrogance of a majority is always to look down at the minority.
Might is right.
And so, Shia phobia definitely is rife. There are certain Arab countries that send their condolences to the victims' families. At the same time, have the most arrogant approach to Shia, where they are bigoted and prejudiced. Yeah. Okay,
there's another key point, as it were, in today's lecture. Inshallah, hopefully you can address this very well as well. Jihad, a word that's been abused by many extremist groups, as it were, and perhaps also observers. So what I'd like to ask is, jihad is taught to our kids, the children, as it were, in madrasas, from the ages of 8 to 9, as part of the Furu'id-Din. But we both know that this isn't, jihad of the self. But jihad such as the wars, Badr, Uhud, Khandaq, Khaybar. Could these, just talking about these, could these lead to radicalisation? And this is really, really important, I think.
I think they can. I think we need to maybe reassess some of our syllabuses that we use when teaching kids on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. We know the Muslim community has, kids being taught in the local community on Saturday afternoons or Sunday afternoons. I think there are certain legal issues which the syllabus need to readdress, certain theological issues. Wording is important. You're right. I think from a young age, if you were to ask somebody, what's jihad? Nobody's really going to say to you, jihad is that of the nafs.
No.
I think there was a major relationship between jihad and the battles that took place in the early years of Islam. And this is a major difficulty that Muslims face. How do you separate the past and the present? How do you contextualize the past and the present? Khaybar is a great day for the Muslims. Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali, son of Abu Talib, on that day was magnanimous. He was victorious. No soldier could get near him. But then how do I translate that to today's language, where that's politically incorrect for you to talk about swords, killing, fighting, and so on?
Yes.
So I suppose that, there are certain elements of our madrasa system and what we teach our kids, whether it's, about non-Muslims, whether it's about certain acts such as jihad, which need to be readdressed.
Dr. Sayed, I feel that we are living in a time where is what I'd like to term as media programming. And what I mean by that is that the media naturally has, it's got an important role to play, and we're very easily influenced through media and mediums, YouTube, news channels, whatever, sport, whatever, political channels, social channels, and so on and so forth. Do you feel they can do more? Are they negative or positive, do you think, as an influence?
Media needs to sell, it needs to make money.
Simple.
The guys at the top of the media world want penthouses, bro.
Bad news sells.
They want Ferraris, everyone wants a Ferrari, everyone wants a penthouse. You want to be on Fifth Avenue, you want to be living in the best roads in the world. Don't bring me somebody on here who's not controversial. Bring me a nutcase. Nutcases sell. Bring me radicals. There are some of us who've experienced this, that if you get screened before they want to bring you on the TV, they'll ask you questions, and if you answer them in a dignified manner, they won't invite you to come to that channel. But if you say something outrageous, then they look forward to talking to you. I do believe, on the flip side, we need to encourage more of our sons and daughters to go into the media. We've produced some fantastic medics and dentists and bankers. But a few more in the media, I think, will be great. I think, Mehdi Hassan's done a great job in the media. Trying to show the version of certain news stories in their reality, and the way, sadly, they've been changed, and the contradictions in the way media have tried to expose one faith but completely silent about the actions of another group of faith. And there are others as well who I'm very proud of, when you see them in the media representing Muslims. But I think there's so many others that need to be there.
Yeah.
I couldn't care less, by the way, if the person in the media is Muslim or non-Muslim, but sometimes I think what's missing is conscience. There are some who are just more interested in the pay packet, and one person said religion is the opium of the masses. And it's just for the poor who are going to follow these things. I think, no faith is opium for a nihilist who just doesn't really care and just wants to just die and that, just make sure they live as much of a good life as they can, they just pass away. And that type of person has no concept of accountability, doesn't care if they lie about a story in Syria blatantly to suit their political agenda, or Yemen, or look after certain personalities because they received a pay packet under the table with a healthy sum in the envelope. So I think there's a lot of conscience missing.
So now we have a question. Salam, this person wants to know the correlation of the attack itself, and apparently your comment on what's next for us Muslims. What can we expect in terms of global oppression due to religion? I suppose what he or she is trying to ask is, what do you mean by that?
What's next is that we all have to sit down politically, and in the world of the media have to get more involved. And I know that we've got people who are doing a great job. We need more.
Yes.
We need to step it up.
Yeah, definitely.
There are a lot who are resting on their laurels. There are a lot who can be amazing in politics, have not entered. Oh, it's not for me. No, you could be a great voice.
Yes.
There are a lot who can go into media but shy away from it.
Yeah, we can all contribute, as it were.
And there are a lot who could be doing a lot more in their community. There are a lot in the Muslim community, Muharram, they'll cook, they'll clean. It's not just about Muharram, And get involved in the community outreach, get involved in community interfaith.
Yeah. Yes.
It's the only way. Education is going to remove ignorance. And education comes through reaching out and talking.
Islamically speaking, what reverence, as it were, should be given to any place of worship? I mean, for example, Are synagogues mentioned in the Holy Quran?
Synagogues are mentioned and are to be protected. Churches are to be protected. Monasteries are to be protected. Mosques are to be protected. In chapter 22, I always recommend people to read chapter 22, verse 39 to 40.
Okay.
ولولا دفع الله الناس بعضهم ببعض لهدمت صوامع وبيع وصلوات ومساجد. صوامع, صومع, بيع, صلوات, مساجد. The synagogue, the church, the monastery, the mosque. If Islam only cares about itself, should only care about the mosque. If Islam wants to prevail over all religions and dominate the earth, should only care about the mosques. In the Quran, there's a mosque that's destroyed, but a church preserved. In the Quran, there's a mosque that's destroyed by the Prophet Muhammad, but the synagogue is preserved. There was a mosque which was known as the harmful mosque.
Okay.
Abdullah bin Ubay and others of the hypocrites, Abu Amr, the father of, I think, Jamila, her name was. Anyway, so he builds a mosque, and the intention of building that mosque is to gather weapons to destroy the religion. And even though it's a mosque, the Prophet Muhammad orders that that mosque is destroyed, because such mosques are mosques which radicalize. Such mosques are mosques which are causing dissension. But when the Quran mentioned sawami' and biya' and salawat, it said that the synagogues and the churches are to be protected. I was disgusted when I saw ISIS destroying the mosques in Mosul. But then I'm disgusted when I see Saudi Arabia in its 100-year history or so, destroying houses of the Prophet and his companions, houses of the family of the Prophet. You know, when you're telling non-Muslims they should respect us, have respect for yourself. You destroyed the heritage of the religion of Islam day by day. I'm not even talking Jannat al-Mu'allat, or I'm not talking Jannat al-Baqi'. I'm not talking those cemeteries that were destroyed. I'm talking there's other areas that were destroyed by Muslims.
Yes.
But synagogues, churches, gurdwaras, all these are to be protected.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a question. There's a question from viewer. Do Muslims today bear any responsibility for the actions of unelected governments in the past, as a New Zealand shooter said in his manifesto?
It's the reality, we have to get on with it. You know, there's unelected governments in Islamic history and they caused atrocity after atrocity. You just got to get on with it. It's sad. It exists. It's used by some to justify killings. You know, the Umayyads and the Abbasids have a history of barbarity. Muslims want to turn a blind eye to what in many cases is an awful history.
Right.
But there was also a good period. Medina was great. That combination of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family, Ali son of Abu Talib in the prime of his life, Salman joining them, Abu Dhar's loyalty, the voice of Uwais al-Qarani from Yemen, and the likes of Al-Miqdad and Ammar bin Yasir building the mosque and being untainted in their reputations. That was a good period.
Yeah. Just extending from that question, the questioner wants to ask, what is the Islamic view on collective responsibility? But I suppose you've already asked that, but if you have something more to add.
Well, I think Shia and Sunni alike, we came from different ships, we're on the same boat now.
Yeah.
I think it's time and I say this upon myself before I preach it to others, that we got to get together now. Don't differentiate whether you are wearing a hijab, whether you're Sunni or you're Shia. That girl's going to get attacked.
Yes.
We could debate all night long as to whether asma or imama or other areas are correct or incorrect or justified or unjustified. But I think for the time being, we have to get our collective minds together.
Yes.
The best of the community together and try and look after what is a very dangerous situation and in some cases perilous.
Right, okay. So now we only have about 4 or 5 minutes left, so I'm going to rush through some of the material and the questions. We're told Christians can't enter mosques. So how do we build a better
They entered something
society?
on the day of Mubahala. You know, those Christians from Najran, they met the Prophet. I don't know where they met him. I'm sure it was a mosque. So I suppose if it was cool for them to come to the mosque of the Prophet in Medina, I don't know why it shouldn't be cool today. Then again, I don't know.
There's not discrimination.
Sometimes the people of law are not the greatest in history or don't want to use history. Who knows?
Yes, okay. So last 3 minutes. Should our mosques screen people who enter mosques now? Is it time to take?
You know, I just hope we don't start being like those who screen us. You know, where they've labeled a Muslim as someone who looks like the following. But sadly, I think you and I would both agree. You're going to a mosque, you're wondering. Somebody put something under the pulpit. Somebody walks in with a backpack. That whole mosque is gone. You look at the wonderful mosque in Kuwait where people were killed. And there are other situations, you know, with the synagogues and the churches. I think there needs to be a reassessment of security at our mosques.
Okay, very quickly now, the last 2-3 questions. Have you ever feared anyone in the crowd when you're lecturing? So that's the first point I'd like to ask. And also, you can see in Europe, the far right is rising. For example, Tommy Robinson from the EDO and others. How do we counter this?
Well, in terms of having fear, the only people I've ever had fear from are the timekeepers in the mosque who, you know, keeping an eye on you to make sure that you finish your lecture ASAP.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be lecturing at a mosque, reality is there could be a day where you have to go, you know. And if Ali died in a mosque, then it's an honor. In terms of, you know, you see Tommy Robinson and others. You know, the sad thing is we got some things in common, you know. I'm really saddened when we just can't sit on the table of brotherhood and dialogue, you know. He likes Stone Island, I like Stone Island. He likes CP Company, I like CP Company. He loves football, I love football. And he grew up in the UK and I grew up in the UK. And I don't know, I just wish that, you know, it doesn't become a world where, you know, you had periods where in the States, for example, it took years for the black and the white to actually chill together and realize, you know what, we got a lot more in common. And it's really sad when I see someone like that and I'm thinking, you know, we got a lot more in common than we have differences, but we're focusing on certain areas. I can't deny there's extreme in our religion. I can't deny there are verses which are not necessarily applicable today.
Yes.
We've got to work together to try and build a table of brotherhood where we sit on one day.
Very fine. Finally, as it were, Salam's saying now, I'm at a crossroads with regards to identity. He wants to ask is he British Muslim first, or you know, through his cultural identity, because of what's happening in the Middle East at the moment, and he wants to ask, what is the point in terms of fiqh? Do we take back Western agreements, Western bank agreements, as it were, for what the kuffar is doing to us? It's quite a mixed question.
I think that's a problem in the Muslim community. It's a big problem. The Muslim community doesn't know whether it has its own identity or its identity is dictated by the Middle East worldview. And even in some of the legal edicts that you see, They allow you to do an agreement with a bank because istinqad dictates that you are getting back the money that was usurped by kuffar. You know, even the worldview is a worldview clearly of people who are taking 15th, 16th, 17th century legal texts and not looking at the context and simply saying, well, that is a text, whether it's in Syria or in Lebanon or in Safavid Iran or in Egypt or in Baghdad or Hilla, we have to take it as it is, and it applies to all of you now.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, one area which maybe needs a lot more work, a lot more discussion, is the fiqh of being a citizen of a country.
Okay.
What are the laws of being a citizen of a country? How do you behave as a citizen of a country? How much identity can you have with that country?
Right.
There are certain people who've lived on the streets, educated here, and yet are very happy to see that the very place where they live is destroyed.
Okay.
I think Muslims are in a crossroads of identity.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Our condolences to those people.
Yes, I think we've run out of time. I very much appreciate Dr. Sayed Ammar.
Thank you.
Having attending the show again. Once again, condolences to the victims' families and those who died in New Zealand. But unfortunately, we have run out of time. Once again, from Dr. Sayed Ammar Nakshawani and myself, Muhammad Ali. Inshallah, see you again next time. Salam Alikum.
You're here defending the paedophiles. I'm here defending your dad. Women are here defending the paedophiles. You're here defending.
We don't need a TV channel because we've got mosques.
We have Islamic centres that are always open.
We have schools teaching Islam.
Hijab is part of a school uniform.
Islam has come and it's established here in the West.
And everyone's happy.
They love us, our food,
Our fashion.
Our culture.
The media is always on our side.
We've got plenty of English speakers, plenty of English books,
And plenty of places to go and learn in the English language.
Let's be real.
Let's get active. Be more involved.
ImamHusseinFree.tv.
So you are an ambassador wherever you are. Let the treasures that you have discovered from Ahlul Bayt streams from your mouth wherever you are.
It becomes for me a moral responsibility and becomes a Shara'i responsibility to congratulate them. They are no less than from within the ranks of the Ashab of Rasulullah, the pure, virtuous Ashab of Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt.
Just by saying this statement, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He had cleaned all of my previous sins away. Because only reverts can understand what that feeling is like.
The salah is, in some narrations, elevate the one towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
We at Imam Hussein TV really admire our revert brothers and sisters, which is why we're bringing to you a new season of Embrace, which aims to help those new to the religion, as well as those who want to brush up on the basics. You do not want to miss this.
Imam Hussein Media Group is a virtual university that works on a global scale to spread the true message of the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt's peace and blessings be upon them. Imam Hussein TV was established 10 years ago in the city of Isfahan, Iran. We work to cover all aspects of religion, Islamic jurisprudence, politics, philosophy, and many more, and aim to bring the public's attention to the righteous Islamic sect, Shia Islam. Our ultimate goal as a media group is to convey the interpretations of the Holy Quran, as well as the traditions and knowledge of the Holy Prophet and his progeny, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon them. Our objectives are to protect and safeguard the Shia youth from the destructive impact of immoral ideologies, standing up against injustice by documenting the oppression of Shia across the globe, as well as encouraging peace and unity amongst the Muslims. To reach our aims and serve the Muslim ummah, we require a budget that would cover all the expenses for our productions, allowing us to work on different projects. Imam Hussein Media Group is a crowd-funded project. We have no sales nor do we charge for our services. We solely rely on monthly payments, financial contributions, donations, religious alms, and generous gifts. The expenses of each production varies depending on the type of project and the style of filming. There are many elements to a production that requires time and capital. The producer must analyze the costs of the venue hire, equipment, transport, feature fees, set design, staff support, and further additional costs. The Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him and his family, narrated, "The best of people is he from whom people benefit." It is up to you to help the Muslim ummah come together and help guide the youth in remaining on the correct path of Islam. To take part in this global conquest and to spread the message of Imam Hussein, peace and blessings be upon him, please visit www.imamhussein3.tv or give us a call on +44 0203 515 0199. You can also contact us via WhatsApp, Telegram, SMS, or even email us on donate@imamhussein.tv. Let's work together hand in hand to elevate the faith of our Shia youth today.
Keep the barakah coming every Monday and Friday morning.
Morning barakah at 9 a.m. GMT time only on Imam Hussein TV.
Imam Hussein Media Group, out of respect to its audience, wants to be available anytime, anywhere. Our worldwide viewers, and in particular North America, can watch our channels through Roku TV setup box. To download our Roku app, follow these simple steps. Go onto the menu and select streaming channels, and then choose the category religious. Then you can find Imam Hussein TV from the list. Now choose add channel and then select OK. Done. Now you can find Imam Hussein TV in your home screen and watch all of our channels online.
The mysteries of Islam fascinate us time and time again. This is no different from the life story of the Prophet. Who was Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam? an illiterate desert merchant who one day stumbled upon amazing Arabic rhetoric? Or was he the creation of Allah's greatest light, sent down to earth to pull man out of ignorance and bring them to the purest of truths? I, Ali Burji, am on a journey to discover the real story behind the Prophet, the real story behind our religion, the root, the beginning, the cradle of civilization.
Many of the youth in the West complain that they don't have an access to an English interpretation, tafsir or commentary of the Holy Quran. It has reached us from the Imams of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam that there is no problem that one faces where he or she cannot find its answer within the Holy Quran. Inshallah, one of this year's New Year's resolution will be to connect and to understand the Holy Quran. From the holy land of Karbala and within the vicinity of the shrines of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salam, we will bring you a series of lectures about the interpretation and tafsir of the Holy Quran. Our aim is to start a series of lectures starting with the first chapter of the Holy Quran and continue inshallah to the last chapter. If you have followed my lectures, you know my style. Inshallah, we will have an action plan within every episode.